Hi, welcome to the Social Media Takeaway. I'm your host, Louise McDonnell, and this is the show for business people who want to learn how to use social media to find new sales and leads. If you enjoy the show, please make sure you subscribe. And if you know of any friends or business groups who would benefit from the advice here today, make sure you share it with them. So today, I'm delighted to welcome Peg Fitzpatrick to the show. Peg brings over a decade of social media marketing experience to help small businesses succeed. As the first head of social strategy for Canva, she's a pro at boosting engagement and brand awareness. Peg loves visual marketing, not surprisingly, having worked for Canva, especially on Pinterest. Her book, The Art of Small Business Social Media, shares insider tips for entrepreneurs and small business owners. You're very welcome to the show, Peg.
Oh my gosh, I'm so obsessed with your accent. Thank you for having me. It's like a social media bedtime story. I'm here for it.
Oh, thank you. So tell us, Peg, tell us, like, that's an amazing accolade to have to be able to say that you worked for Canva. Do you want to tell us about your journey and where all that came in?
Sure. So I started out in the industry. I did traditional marketing before there was social media. And then 14 years ago, I started working for a company full time. So I've always worked in social media, like at a job running marketing and small business social media. So, but that was only part time. So then I did things on the side. And as I was like trying to figure out how to do things, because everything was very, very new, there weren't books on how to do things back then, or even blogs really. So I kind of on the side grew my own social platforms. And when I was learning things, I started writing on a blog. I love blogging. I know podcasts are more popular now, but I still love the written word. And my education was, I was a geography and education major with an English minor. And I use all of those things for my job, which is amazing. I've traveled all over and I, teach people how to do things through my website and, videos and books. And then English obviously helps with writing a blog, even though it's different than things that you learned in school, but grammar is still the same. So in my doing things part-time, I was also working with Guy Kawasaki, helping him with his social media and doing brand campaigns and things with him. So in creating graphics for him, Canva actually saw something that I had created in Canva that I was tweeting from Guy's account. So they sent him an email saying, "Hey, we see you're using Canva. We'd love to talk to you." Because at that time, they had been around for a little bit, but they didn't have the traction outside of Australia. So they were small, and like small businesses or all startups, their goal was like, we need people to find us. Like, we need to get out there in the world. And also being in Australia at that time, it was really hard to connect in Silicon Valley because Silicon Valley is so obsessed with themselves. So they're more interested in that. And of course, Guy, if your listeners aren't familiar, Guy Kawasaki was the original Apple evangelist, and he's literally a legend in Silicon Valley. He knows everybody. The connections that he has there are amazing, and he's a very generous person with them. So Canva said, we'd love to come and meet with you. So they flew from Australia to San Francisco. I flew from New Hampshire to San Francisco, and we had a meeting at Guy's house. And it was Melanie and Cliff, who are two of the co-founders, and Zach Kitschke, who is their CMO now. He's been with the company, I don't even know how many years. He was he was there before me. So he was probably in the first 10 employees, maybe 15 at the very most. But anyway, Zach is like, he's been integral for everything that's happened amazing at Canva. So we met with them and they were like, we need help, getting people to know who we are. And so we had this meeting with them, and basically they wanted to hire Guy and I to help them launch Canva in the United States and globally. They've always had big, big plans. And Melanie Perkins is especially like the visionary of Canva. She's always had like her big dreams for Canva to be, way beyond just a little app from Australia. And now they're global, and, they especially help teachers. It's free for teachers, free in classrooms. They're a very generous company. So Guy and I started working with Canva. Guy he is still the chief evangelist of Canva, and I was the head of social strategy. So the first thing that we did was Guy and I had a meeting. They left and we were like, okay, now how are we going to, get this out in the world? And so then I just went to it and used Guy's social platform and my social platform and Canva had started things, but they weren't, big everywhere. So I just ran all of their social media. I ran their blog and, it worked because we grew our numbers really big. Pretty fast, we ramped up it and built a community. And then it's just obviously the little snowflake that we started is snowballed into like an avalanche of Canva everywhere now, which is amazing. But it was really great to be there at the very beginning when they were just a small startup in their little first office and not that many employees, and just they were doing, great things and they had big dreams. So Guy and I were very lucky to be a part of it like early and then just see everything cascade from there.
That's
But I was
amazing.
only there for like 6 months.
Oh, okay. But do you know what's amazing to take from that for anybody listening in? Like that, Canva themselves needed help. And, sometimes you can't do it all yourself. And for this brand, like they had amazing people behind them and amazing visionaries and amazing energy. Like they too were at a point in the business that they recognized, I need help and I need to help with the socials. I'm going to get the people in that can help. And I think that's an important message.
And it was even beyond the socials because they really needed to connect with investors. And Guy actually was, helped move all of those. He gave them street cred. People were like, oh, Guy Kawasaki's worked with them. So sometimes it's even who you partner with. Sometimes it's not even just like, because it was two pieces of Guy's piece of it and my piece of it. We both started talking about them a lot. And then we started like doing webinars and like speaking about them at conference. Like we brought it, we did like everything. But it's like the networking piece of it and the community piece of it are sometimes the piece that maybe people forget about. Like when you're a small business and you're just getting started, and working with other people in your community or outside of your community can really help. And people get so isolated in their bubble of their thing, with their business.
I completely agree. And I think sometimes what people don't recognize as well is that social media can help you with that too. So, okay, you might be on social media trying to grow sales and leads for your business, but the power of networking, even through social media, the connections that you make, it may not be potential customers, but it just may be people that can help you along the way, people that can give you a platform. So I think that's a really important message as well.
It is. And you connect with people. It's not always just about what you see publicly on social media. It's, direct messages and the fact that Cliff, reached out through email. He also left comments on my blog on a blog post that I had used Canva on. So he was like doing a little research, figuring things out. And he's a COO. So he's a chief operating officer. But at that time, they didn't have like legions of people that are doing. So, it was literally Cliff was out there looking for people. So
and that's another important message when it comes to use of social media. Social media is not just about creating content. It's about engaging with other people's content. It's about DMing people. It's about reading their blogs, commenting on their blogs, commenting on their posts in a meaningful way to create that connection. So that's a wonderful point.
And then the other side of that is making sure, if you're there, to make sure that people can reach you, right? Don't make it so hard to find you that people can't send you an email. Guy puts his email address out all the time. Like a lot of people at his level don't give out their personal, they're like, I'm not going to do that, but he does. And he reads his email and he checks stuff. And he's always like, oh, this could be a thing. Is this a thing? He doesn't just dismiss things. So there's a lot of great lessons in there about being open to talking to people about their ideas. Maybe it is a great partnership for you and you don't know it yet. Making sure people can find a way to reach you. I mean, if like small business owners, I love them so much. And there's just some really basic stuff that sometimes they miss because they don't know, but like there's no contact information anywhere, or you can't even find their hours, or like there's no even link to their website, or they don't have a website. Sometimes it's the very basic things that can be the thing, and even though social media seems really overwhelming, sometimes just taking a look at even just the real basics like that, setting yourself up for success by having the bio that's there and the photo, and who you are. And in small businesses, there's a little fine line of people do want to know who's behind there. So an about us, like who created this brand, like who's the passionate person behind it, is always great. I love to see, obviously, brands that get bigger, like an Ulta brand or Barnes and Noble, like things like that. They're not going to have the who started it. I have no idea who started Barnes and Noble. Was it Barnes and Noble? I have no idea. But you know what I mean? Like, just if you're a small business owner, don't post your personal things on your social media, but sometimes people do like to know who's behind. Don't you always look on websites to see like who's making the jewelry or who's making the soap or whatever it is? I like to see the the person who's creating or whose dream it was.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. And in fact, like when you say to make it easy for people to reach out, I think sometimes there are some businesses who are so intent to use scheduling tools that they never actually go onto the social media networks.
Right.
And so what can be happening is that people are responding to what you're doing. But if you're not there, if you're missing the opportunity to connect, well, then what was the point in the social media content in the first place? So,
Right.
you know, you overusing scheduling tools, I know they save you time, but you need to be on them. And actually, you need to be in 2024 going into 2025, you need to be on them even more than ever because that engagement
Yeah.
piece is so, so important.
It's the last thing we can do, right? Algorithms are shut down. Engagement is the thing.
Yeah.
So I 100% agree. And make sure that you have like Google Alerts set up for your company. So if somebody's mentioning you, if you have enough money to use something like Brand24, where you can do, you know, it'll do like searches and send you reports on stuff. Yeah, it is important. It seems like there's tons of things to remember, but there's really basics like that. Like just even make sure that you go to the platform to make sure that you're, you know, is somebody asking you a question? I mean, that's the worst. If someone's sending you a message, you don't respond, and it can't all be done by bots. It's fine to have an autoresponder, but on off hours, but you do need to answer. People want to hear from you. On the brand that I manage, and we cover North America, but we're the only part of our company that's online. So I get people from all over the world emailing questions. So I have to always be up on looking at stuff, but I still get stuff like in the middle of the night or Friday night at 11 o'clock, or because it's different time zones. So I get to them as soon as I can. I do have an autoresponder that says, if you have bigger questions or need something right away, here's our phone number. And I'd give my email address so people can send me something if they have something longer. And then I respond to it as soon as I can. Sometimes it's the just as soon as you can is the best you can do.
But to respond, you know, is ultimately the most important thing. Another thing as well, if you're starting out or a small business, I don't know if you noticed this, Peg, but one thing that I would notice, a mistake that businesses make, is that they look very different on the different platforms.
Mhm.
And that could be that they set up their Facebook page, you know, years and years ago when that was a thing. And then a few years later, they decided, oh, I need to go onto Instagram now. So they set up an Instagram profile. And the name of the channel is different to the name of the channel on Facebook.
That's the worst. When the names are different, it's very hard because
And then
people
that
can only
happens.
remember one. If you're lucky, they'll remember one.
Exactly. And then if somebody's trying to tag you across two different platforms, and then you've got different names on different platforms, and you look
No.
different, your branding's different, your contact details different, it confuses the hell out of people. So it's, yeah, that's, as you said, just get the basics. Go and check out all. If you're tuning in here today and you haven't updated your social channels in a few years, just go back and review them. I was even horrified to see like an old email address. It just missed it. Make sure your contact details up to date, your opening times up to date, your email address, you know, make sure that you're the same name as much as possible across all the socials.
Yeah, try to avoid the underlines and like the here
Yeah.
were this underline US, here were this, you know, dot this, and people are just like, what? I mean, you're asking yourself not to be tagged on anything if it's too hard. And I think I haven't set up a brand new account in a long time, so it's probably getting even harder to get names for stuff. But yeah, as close as you possibly can
Yeah.
to your website and to your
Yes.
company name.
I agree. Yeah, I have, when I was rebranding the company a few years ago, so I'm selling social media. And of course, Twitter, or X as it is now, that was too long. I know it was too long. It's like, oh,
I still call it Twitter. I don't
so do
care.
I. So I'm selling social everywhere because I could get that everywhere. So at least it's consistent, you know. So tell us about this book that you've written.
So it's called The Art of Small Business Social Media, a blueprint for marketing success. Sorry, it's a long title. And I wrote another book with Guy called The Art of Social Media. And that one is power tips for power users. That one is kind of like you already have some experience and it's power tips. But this new book is specifically for small businesses, and it just goes from the beginning to the end. Everything from like how to create your brand, what is an online brand, do you need a website? It's how to do the things, but it's not things that you could just Google. You know, if you can like Google how to do it, that's not in there. It's like really the strategy of everything from the beginning to the end for small business owners who are super busy, who don't have a lot of money. It's not, I do talk about tools and things, but I am well aware that people can't afford $100 a month for each tool. It's things have gone up in price a lot. It used to be a lot of things were had freemium versions that you could use, and now things are expensive. So taking all those things into consideration, like how to create a budget for your social media, a time budget and a money budget, and it basically just walks you through all of it. And by the end of it, you should be able to create your own social strategy, create a content calendar, and really get out there and be able to market your business to be a success.
Excellent. Okay, so what are the misconceptions small businesses have about social media, do you think?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think number one, people think something's going to go viral and they're going to be rich. Let's just make it go viral because that's what people think. That's not the thing. You can't try to go viral as your marketing plan because that's going to fail. Like you can't plan that. I mean, there is planning that goes into some of the stuff that people create that goes viral, but mostly not. I think number two, a lot of small business owners have tried it and maybe didn't have things just right the first time. So it wasn't successful. So they say social media doesn't work because I tried it and it didn't work. So they tried it, they abandoned it, and then they went back 2 months later and they posted one thing. So they were very inconsistent. They didn't know what they were posting. They had no branding. You couldn't tell one post from the other who they were, what they were. So because of that, they say it doesn't work. Or another situation, which is a bummer, they hired someone to do their social media who didn't know what they were doing and kind of got burned by it, and they spent money on it and they didn't see anything from it. So those are three things that I see a lot, where and then it just seems overwhelming. And then the very obvious thing is small business owners are very, very busy doing all their business stuff, and it's hard for them to have time. And they think it's going to take so much time that they just can't even do it. But there's ways that you can create your content in batches, and then you can use the scheduling tool, but then you go in when it's posting and check everything. I mean, I schedule stuff, but I always check stuff, and there's always stuff that doesn't post wrong, didn't kind of like
Didn't tag.
even yeah, didn't tags hardly ever work. So even if you schedule it, you still have to go check things. So I think those are those are the big ones that I think. What do you think?
I love the fact that you started off with the people think everything's going to go viral. I actually, it's one of my hobby horses, to be honest, because I think the media are in some way responsible for this, because any time that social media is featured within the media, it's always about here's the account and it's had 3 million, billion, trillion followers and views and blah, 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 blah. And here's what I always say to people. Now, can you think of a day yesterday when you were on social media? Can you think of an account that came into your news feed that you'd never seen before because they did something quite clever and it went in your news feed? You never saw them before and you possibly might never see them again. Do you even remember them today? Because you won't remember them in 2 weeks' time. Okay.
Right. So if you didn't follow them right away, which that doesn't always happen with viral stuff. I mean, people don't. Or sometimes viral things, they get a lot of followers from it and then people unfollow them later because they don't like the rest of their content.
Exactly.
And the other thing is people then they're trying to recreate the viral thing. The one that's been really popular lately is that awesome account that started the demure trend on TikTok. I'm very demure. I'm very mindful. I actually love that. And it's a very tight little tagline. And they've continued with it and they've been successful. And it literally that's more of like a catchphrase thing. And then more people are using it. And so sometimes you can create a sustainable, interesting thing. Another one that I love is, and it wasn't necessarily a viral thing, is Lexi, the girl that created the coastal grandmother trend, because everybody's obsessed with Nancy Meyers movies and Holiday and all of her movies, but they love the coastal grandmother Diane Keaton vibes. And so she kind of created like a whole persona around that, and that's continued. And she probably has made some money from it, like brand deals and things like that. She definitely gets a lot, but it's definitely hard to turn the one thing as a viral thing. And another one that I talk about in my book, this one really makes me crazy. Clancy's Auto Shop. I don't know if you know this story. It's one of the ones I talk about in the book. So it's a TikTok account. And this auto shop, literally, it's a shop that does collision work for cars in Florida. So they hired this guy who said he knew how to do brand social media, which he didn't. He created a TikTok which went viral using a meme of Maxwell the cat which is a tuxedo cat, like chubby tuxedo. It's a really cute cat. And it was trending music. He didn't have any idea how to do anything else. That went viral. And people were just like going back to the account, like, we want to see the cat. We want more of the cat. They don't own the cat. They didn't have really legal use to use it because it was a meme. So it was like a million things wrong. And he tried to keep it going, but it ended up just going crazy. People left millions of Google reviews on the business because of this, but then it was like overwhelming and it just got to be a mess. And the moral of the story of that is they're an auto body shop in Florida. All that matters is that local people are interested in what they do. So they went viral, they got followers. That guy is not there anymore. It just was a hot mess. It's like the perfect example of
What not
going
to do.
viral isn't what matters because you're an auto body shop in Florida. You need local people. It doesn't
Exactly.
matter. You don't need 10,000 followers. You need the right people to follow. You need other mechanics to follow you that would refer business there. You need the local people. And that's, I think, where the bigger picture of social media gets kind of lost is that people think, oh, getting a million views on something would be great. But it ultimately didn't help their business or that person who got eventually fired.
Exactly. Well, I know I always say to people as well, I have clients who run very successful social media marketing campaigns on the back of 300 followers, and they make money on it because they follow a process to create sales and leads. And then I've had people who've come up to me at events that I've been speaking at, and they say, I have 40,000 followers, but I don't know how to make money. So,
Right.
so that whole thing of going
It's
viral.
really, those are two different things, aren't they? Right?
Yeah,
Having
yeah.
a following and how to make money from it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I will say to people as well that influencers are content creators. That's their job. They create content. Whereas if you're a small business owner, your job is to do all the stuff in the business. And social media is
Right.
just one little part of that. So I love the
Right.
fact that you started off talking about the whole thing viral because that drives me crazy.
Me too.
Trying it and it didn't work is absolutely out on the button because people say, yeah, I tried that and it doesn't work. Or people say, I tried Facebook ads and they don't work. And I'm like, can I see the ad? And I'm like, well, that's why it didn't work.
Yeah, Facebook ads those are complicated. There's a whole
Yeah.
art and a science to getting all the pieces right. And the conversion copywriting is again a whole other thing. Like being good at, like, I can write great social media posts, but I will agonize over the conversion pieces of it because they're so different
Yeah, exactly. And there's so many
and
different types of
important.
ads, and people run the wrong one ad expecting a different outcome, and that ad was never going to deliver that outcome. So yeah, not
Yeah.
working, not being consistent, huge, huge issue, or not being
Yep.
clear on their branding or their core messages. So, and then if you don't know your branding, your core messages, but you're trying to outsource to somebody and you can't communicate what they are, they're never going to get it right either.
Right. It is really hard. That's another thing in the book. I mean, I do talk about, where you can hire people to do things, but having an overview of everything helps you have to know what you're hiring someone to do. And you have to be able to say to them, I want to do these promotions. The rest of the time, I want to grow things. Like if you just tell people to do social media for you, you're not going to get anything very good. It's way too general. And if they're not going to do reporting for you, forget it. There's accountability and can they send things to you ahead of time so you can kind of look at them to get an idea at first? Because it's hard to create content for a brand that if you don't know all of those things, if they're like, oh, yeah, I can totally, they can create content for you, but it's not going to be content that convert or works necessarily.
Exactly. And that's going back to your point that people getting burnt and then thinking that it doesn't work. I know in the book
Right.
you talk about like what should brands should do if should a crisis arise. And I know sometimes the fear of people who have been avoiding social media, they're maybe not into it themselves personally. So they have this fear that what's going to happen if if all the bad things happen. So what's your advice then around, if a crisis should arise?
So one of the crises that I talk about in the book is it was a bakery and they had Chef Gordon Ramsay came and he tried to work with them to help them. And he was like, I can't work with them. There's no way. Like, I'm done. I can't help them. But it just went viral on their Facebook page because they did the thing that's a horrible thing that small business owners do sometimes. They started ranting on their Facebook page and posts over and over again. He's horrible. How dare he say that? They just ranted. And that's a thing where sometimes small business owners get confused about the professional account. They think it's my account. And so I'm going to write whatever I want. And in theory, that's true. It is your account, but you're not talking from your business account as your personal self. So they just ranted and went crazy. And people were like, what? People were just like watching it because it was just like watching a train wreck. BuzzFeed wrote about it and just talked about how they made the whole viral thing themselves. And then the account ended up closing. I think the business even ended up closing because it was just horrible. So one of the things, if there's a crisis or something's going on, don't rant on your accounts. That happened to be Facebook. And that's the kind of place like Twitter and Facebook are kind of where people do that. But another place is like Google or Yelp reviews, because small business owners are petrified about Yelp reviews. And they are very important. People check them, review online. People really trust online reviews. I do include a section on Yelp, even though it's not technically social media, but it is a community place. Because if you set your Yelp up right, you can do like a page, like a Facebook page with a cover. You can add photos, all your out. Like there's a lot of stuff that you can do to set your Yelp page up right. But just make sure if you get a negative review that you respond to it and get the person's email. And you don't have to have a big, long conversation in public. You should respond publicly and then deal with everything offline. That's a good rule of thumb for a crisis. Like always respond publicly and then get their phone number, email them, do something you can to make it up for them, like for whatever bad thing happened. You can't just take it so personally that you lose your temper and say, how dare they? That was the best soup they've ever had. They just don't even, blah, blah, blah. Sometimes people even use their Yelp reviews to write funny things. I saw one that was like, it was a very popular restaurant, but somebody gave their soup 1 star. And they did one of the little boards outside that was like, don't miss our 1-star soup that blah, blah, blah. They made fun of it. And most people won't go to that level, but it's kind of like the best crisis short advice I can give is really just that. Make sure you respond to things positively and then take it offline to solve whatever customer service thing it is. Because small business owners want to be there to get customers and make sales, but people are online and they want customer service. So whether you think you're doing customer service online or not, you are, because they expect customer service. So that's one of the big things about answering as a brand and small business is that you are doing customer service. It could make a sale. It could, fix someone's negative review of an experience, but it's all important. And every single thing you do is not going to be a sale. A lot of things are brand awareness and people can ask you questions and just networking. There's a lot of different aspects to it. Everything is not going to be a direct sale. That's another thing. You just have to know that it takes time to win people's hearts and to have them. But if you're local and you're posting things locally, people can come in your shop or connect with you, or just make sure that you're letting people know where they can find you.
Exactly. And I will say that if you do get a negative review like that, and sometimes if you are the business owner, you can't take it personally because you've put so much time and effort into this business. Well, one of the things I will say to people if that happens is never respond when you're angry or upset. Go away and calm down and
take a breath
and go for a walk and then come back. And you're dead right though. Take it offline as fast as you can, because the whole thing is that it's the people that come afterwards that are going to look at how you responded. That's actually what's really important. And I know if I'm going to eat someplace, it's the 1-star reviews I'd check first. And if you read a 1-star review and you think, oh, that person wasn't being reasonable, well, then you don't take any heed. But as you said, the business owner still has to say, I acknowledge what happened. I've sent you a DM. Let's take this conversation and let's get this.
Yeah. Don't respond angry for sure. Yeah. It seems common sense. A lot of things like this are common sense, but we do have emotions. It's the same thing when you write a book, you can get a bad review and it hurts. You want to just believe all the good reviews, but then when someone, gives you a 1 star and says I didn't like this, you're like, you put a lot of work into that. Everything isn't for everybody.
True. Actually, sometimes you can learn a lot from the 1 and 2-star reviews. So sometimes you mightn't like the feedback, but then if you take it and you go, okay, how can I use it? So how can I improve? I think that's important too.
It is, especially if it's somebody commenting that somebody was rude when they went into the store, or, if it's that kind of thing. There's a lot of different kinds of reviews, like shipping, maybe it wasn't your fault. It's definitely, and I think if someone's taking the time to leave a review for something like that, it's an open door. So you can talk to them and try to make it right. Can I have you come in for another meal? Can we comp your meal? Like some way to fix it. Is there something that we can do? Because those people could turn into your biggest fans later. Like you get a product and you open it up and it's like immediately broken, like makeup palette. A lot of money for eyeshadow palettes these days are like $60, $75. I mean, they're like super pricey. And if it's broken and then you posted it and the brand contacts you and says, we're so sorry, can we send you another one? And they do, and that one's perfect. I mean, they fixed that. I think a lot of times when people are complaining, they are looking for that kind of support. I had a it's a skincare brand that I like called Eau de Cité, and they have like a little gua sha tool that's like quartz, and it's so beautiful, but you use it when you're doing like oil on your face, and I dropped it and it just broke in half. And I was like devastated. And I posted like, oh my God, like I was just sad. I didn't post like negative. I was just sad, but they sent me another one.
Oh, that was
And they're
nice.
not inexpensive, but I mean, they were so nice about it. And I was just like, thank you so much. Like, I appreciate they didn't have to do that.
And
But
here
it was
you are sharing that story.
right, because it was a thing that happened and then they rectified it. So taking the time to do that, if they weren't listening and looking on social media, they wouldn't have seen that, but they did. So yeah,
Yeah.
you have to look at it as an opportunity, get over the emotional piece of it, try to process that first and just think, how can I turn this around and surprise and delight that person to turn them into a fan? It's a little bit of a harder conversion, but I think they're open to connecting with you because they're posting it.
Exactly. Okay, so I know we're not quite at the end of 2024, but we're heading towards the last quarter of the year. What
Yeah.
trends do you see emerging in the last quarter of 2024 and heading towards 25?
I think more than ever, community is really important and engagement because, as we kind of already mentioned a little bit, the algorithms are so hard right now. So I think it's really important to connect with the people who are in your community right now. Growing is great, but also don't forget like nurturing the people that are there and sharing with them and helping them. And if you make a connection, make sure you're following people right away, commenting on their things, because it takes a little bit of a work these days to make sure that you see the people that you want in your feed. If you like an account and never engage with it, eventually you're not going to see any of their things. So I really wish there was a way where you could like make a little side list of accounts so you could follow it on Instagram, but there's no way to do that unless it's a hashtag. But you almost have to like have a little list of your most important people so you can make sure that you're going and engaging with them on their accounts, not just on your account. Because we talked about how important it is to answer every question. But also, if people are spending time on your account, make sure that you're reciprocating that and going to their account, leaving thoughtful comments on their posts, not just something fast, but like leave a little comment so you can build, continue to network and grow that community. Because I think it's getting harder to grow communities. And I think that people are still really looking to be connected and engaging with people online. So I think that for me, I feel like that piece is really big going forward. What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I actually think the algorithms now have changed that they no longer serve content to followers. They serve content to people who engage because the algorithms, their only sole purpose is to keep people on the platform. So if they
Right.
know that somebody's interested in a particular topic, they're going to serve them that content. And even if they're not a follower. So it's all about that engagement piece and getting into people's DM box as well, super
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
So yeah, taking the time. Unfortunately, there's a little bit more time needed, but if you
Mhm.
spend the time correctly, it will really work. And you build connections as well. So it's not just about interacting for the sake of it. People like when you comment on their stuff and they really appreciate it and they notice it and it becomes a notification in their newsfeed.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. I feel like that's even more important.
Yeah. And I think like in a world where there's so much AI content and people are bombarded with more and more content, that whole engagement and community piece is more important than ever. So I completely agree. So I know your book is coming out on the 19th of November. Where can people find this, Peg?
It's actually available now wherever books are sold. It's on pre-order now everywhere. So find your favorite independent bookstore or online bookstore, wherever you like to get your books, and it's there. My website is pegfitzpatrick.com. It's super easy to find. So I have more information there if you're looking for like how to do things. My website also has a lot of great resources on it.
Fantastic. So just remind people again of the name of the book.
It is The Art of Small Business Social Media, a Blueprint for Marketing Success. It's like a
Peg,
test.
I know, yeah, I was letting you say it. Peg, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing all your wonderful advice. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. That's it, everyone. That's another episode of the Social Media Takeaway. If you have some feedback, make sure that you tag us on social media. You'll find me under Sell on Social M, or on LinkedIn, you'll find me under Louise McDonald. I'd love to hear your feedback and what you thought about the show. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so that you don't miss out on any future episodes. And if you know anyone who may be interested, be sure to share the show with them too. Thanks, everyone.